Honorable Deputy Chief Minister Meghalaya, Shri B.M. Lanong Sahab, Shri Pariyat, Shri Khosla Sahab, Shri Jayant Kavle Sahab, Shri Jyotiraman Chakrabarti, Shri S.J. Lam Kumar, Shri J.P. Prakash, Shri Anand Kumar, Shri Harry Dhol, and all participants. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I want to thank Mr. Harry Dhol that he has thought about the empowerment of this region, and he has organized this conference at this beautiful place in northeastern region. India, as you know very well, is the fourth largest consumer of energy in the world after USA, China and Russia. India's energy mix comprises both non-renewable and renewable energy sources. The major portion of this energy is made from electricity produced from thermal and hydropower plants. However, nuclear and other non-conventional energy resources also have considerable contributions. Over the years, the installed capacity in India has increased to 1,99,877 megawatt at the end of 11th plan from a meager 1713, 1,713 megawatt in 1950, out of which total installed capacity of northeastern region is only 2,455 megawatt as on 31st March 2012, which is only 1.2% of all India installed capacity. Future economic growth of our country crucially depends on the long-term availability of energy in increasing quantities from sources better, accessible, affordable, socially acceptable, and environment friendly. In this aspect, hydroelectric plants have the added advantage of being long-lived. Hydroelectric plants are clean and one of the most widely deployed sources of sustainable energy. Recognizing the need for development of large untapped renewable hydroelectric resources in terms of their merit being cheap, clean, inflation-free contribution to the system reliability and stability, the Government of India announced policy on hydropower development in August 1998. India is blessed with immense amount of hydroelectric potential and ranks 5th in terms of exploitable hydro potential in global scenario. As per assessment by CA, India is endowed with economically exploitable hydropower potential to the tune of 1,48,700 megawatt of installed capacity at 60% load factor, out of which northeastern region alone is having around 59,000 megawatt hydropower potential. As on 31st October 2012, total hydro installed capacity of our country is 39,291 megawatt, out of which the northeastern region has only 1,200 megawatt, which is only 3% of the total hydro installed capacity of the country and 2% of the total potential of the region. Hydro capacity addition in the country during 11th 5-year plan was 5,544 megawatt, and target for 12th 5-year plan is kept at about 9,200 megawatt. In May 2003, the Government of India has launched an unprecedented 50,000 megawatt initiative for development of hydropower for the first time in the country. For the expeditious exploitation of these perennial sources, such as initiative has been long overdue. The first step is this initiative comprises preparation of pre-feasibility report of some 162 schemes selected from the remaining 400 schemes in a very short time frame. These works have been allotted to governments, consultancy companies, and hydro public sector units like WEPCOS, NHPC, NIPCO, SJVNL, THDC, and number of state utilities with supervision and coordination under CA. The pre-feasibility reports help us in allocation of projects amongst prospective developers, thus enabling further work of preparation of DPR, present processing, etc. Timely execution, completion of this initiative depends on prompt resolution of problems inherent and likely to be faced in hydro development. The success of this initiative will be a milestone in the development of hydro in the country and will set the trend for undertaking further hydro development expeditiously. For quite some time, the Government of India has become seriously concerned with accelerating the pace of hydro development to accomplish exploitation of the balanced hydro potential in a reasonable time frame, bulk of which under the prevailing circumstances would have to be developed under public-private partnership. The Government of India CA have in the recent past taken some very positive steps for facilitating the hydro development in the area. As already said, hydropower is a renewable, economic, non-polluting, environmentally safe sources of energy and saves scarce fossil fuels resources for the country. Thereby, hydropower projects have many distinctive advantages. But the constraints which have affected hydro development are difficult investigation, inadequacies in tunneling methods, deficiencies in providing long-term financing, tariff-related issues, and managerial weakness in poor contract management. The hydro projects are also affected due to technical limitations in carrying out accurate subsurface geological investigations, leading to occurrence of geological surprises, especially in the Himalayan region, where underground tunneling is required. Inaccessibility of the area, problem due to delay in land acquisition, resettlement of project-affected families, law and order problem in militant infested areas are other major constraints. Nevertheless, the region infrastructure are steadily growing. There exists tremendous potential for investment individually and also in collaboration with government or with foreign investors. Given the state's strategic location, it is only a matter of time before the region emerges as a very important location of hydropower generation. It will be worth to mention here that the proper downstream impact assessment study is also essential along with other statutory studies for protection and rehabilitation of affected population and in the area. It is a matter of fact that thermal power generation is the backbone of Indian power system. As on 31st October 2012, total thermal installed capacity was 1,40,206 megawatt, which is only 67% of installed capacity of 2,09,276 megawatt. In this consideration, the thermal installed capacity of the region is meager, which around 1,027 megawatt and is only 0.7% of all India installed capacity. The thrust also required to be given for installation of more thermal power plants in the region where good amount of fossil fuel is available. The natural gas reserves in northeastern region, particularly in the state of Assam and Tripura, estimated to be 127 million cubic meters apart from the coal reserve of 1.1 billion tons against 248 billion tons of total reserve in India. The projected energy requirement of northeastern region by 2122 is about 22,421 megawatt with peak demand touching 3,905 megawatt. With the development of these power projects, both the thermal as well as hydro, the northeastern region will immensely prosper in terms of economic development, socio-economic development, education and infrastructure development, etc. along with the rest of the country. To conclude, I believe that introduction of many government policies and development of new technologies, vast expertise and experience gained through construction of large number of power projects having varieties of features located in the various parts of the country could be useful in the expeditious development of the large balance expeditious hydro as well as thermal power potential. As far as NIPCO is concerned, we are enduring our best efforts to develop the hydro potential in this region particularly, and we have gone through the cases. As you know very well, the total capacity of hydro in this region is about 59,000 megawatt, out of which a lot of projects have been allocated to the private companies, independent developers. But unfortunately, for the last 3-4 years, there is no progress on these projects. Keeping in view all these problems, we have invited expression of interest from all the parties, from all the companies who are allocated the projects in this region, and due to one problem or other, they are unable to progress or develop these projects. We have invited their expression of interest to join hands with NIPCO so that we can use our expertise, we can use our manpower, which is mainly 90% from this area, who can understand the local problems and handle the local problems very easily. So in this area, we are doing our best efforts, and I think people will come out. And so far, we have received so many good responses from the companies who are approaching us, and I hope that this hydro potential in this area, the development of this hydropower will take place at the fast speed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pankaj, for giving us an overview of the hydro potential and also the thermal potential in this region of the country. May I also inform, ladies and gentlemen, that the concept, or rather the birth of this conference for which we are meeting today, took place in a discussion between us and Sri Pankaj. Mr. Pankaj was very keen that NIPCO takes interest in such a conference. We were debating whether it should be held in Guwahati or Shillong. Finally, we left the choice to Mr. Pankaj. He decided we should meet in Shillong. We thank you very much, sir. We have been giving advices from you from time to time. From the very day we drafted the first agenda, you remember. And you said anything you want in Northeast should be for the development of Northeast. And that's why we are here, sir. And I would like to acknowledge that and like to thank you very much for your association with us as a partner of this conference. Thank you very much to you, sir. And thank you, NIPCO. The other partners of this conference is Jindal Power. Jindal has been supporting our conferences all along. We have the pleasure of having Mr. Jayant Kawale, the Managing Director, Hydro and Renewables of Jindal Power with us. May I request Mr. Kawale to make his presentation on the industry perspective in the Northeast region for empowering the Northeast. Kawale, sir.
Thank you. When we talk about the potential of the Northeast, it becomes a theoretical concept because not much of that potential has yet been realized, except for what NIPCO has done so far, the Ranganadi project and some of their projects which are going on. But we really need to look at Bhutan to know what realization of that potential actually means to the local economy. In Bhutan, so far, some 1400 megawatt has been developed through assistance of Government of India. The model is very simple. Initially, 60% of equity was given by Government of India as a grant to the Government of Bhutan and 40% loan. Later, in the last project, Tala, it became 40% equity and 60% loan. So basically, it is funded by Government of India. The projects are implemented through a joint authority of Government of India and Government of Bhutan, and the power, surplus power rather, is imported by India, and the rate is decided looking at the prevailing market rates in India. Now that model has worked very well for the economy of Bhutan. You can visibly make out the difference, and I've been going there a few times. You can make out the difference that these three projects have made to Bhutan's economy. The Bhutanese perhaps are even more careful about the environment than we are, and in spite of that, they have not only welcomed these projects, they have been very enthusiastic about developing these projects, and they have actually delivered. So there's a lot to learn from what has happened in Bhutan, and since this is in the neighborhood, I would really invite people, particularly those who have concerns about the environment side, to visit the projects and see what is happening, how they have done it. But what is the situation in India? Mr. Pankaj mentioned about the benefits of hydropower, so I will not, I will skip over this slide. From our first 5-year plan, initially there was a lot of emphasis, and you can see in this table the percentage of hydropower in the total installed capacity of the country. It steadily, in fact, went up to almost 45% till about 1970. It hovered around 40% till 1980, after which there has been a sudden drop. And now in the year 2012, the percentage of hydropower is less than 20%. It's in fact 19%. So that's a very alarming situation, because ideally the ratio is supposed to be 60-40, 60 thermal and 40 hydro. Why is this happening? Why is the percentage dropping? One of the reasons, of course, could be the success of NTPC. NTPC came in the mid-70s, and with NTPC, the thermal part of it really took off. It takes a very short time to implement a thermal project. That's perhaps one of the reasons. But for the percentage to drop from 45% to 20% is an alarming situation. Now, what happened in the last 5-year plan, the 11th 5-year plan? Whereas the thermal sector added 43,000 megawatt, the hydro added only 6,111. So in fact, we are on a path where the percentage of hydro is going to go down even further. Now let us look at the proposed 12th and 13th plans from the plan document. From conventional sources, the addition in the 12th 5-year plan is going to be almost 80,000 megawatt, out of which thermal is going to be 67 and hydro only 9,200. In the 13th plan, again 80,000 megawatt approximately is going to be added from conventional sources, out of which hydro will be 12,000 megawatt, which means that the percentage is going to go down further. There is wind, solar, other renewable energy sources, etc. But we must remind ourselves that those are infirm sources of power. So what really matters from the point of view of the electricity system is what happens to your conventional dispatchable sources of power. So we are on a path where hydropower percentage is going to drop even further. Now, as we see, a number of hydro players have announced their withdrawal, in fact, from the hydro sector. Our utilization of potential is only 28% as against 50% that China has achieved. And we have not even touched the about 90,000 megawatt of pumped storage schemes that can be developed. Now, this also has been covered by Mr. Pankaj, the known unknowns of hydropower development like geological surprises, land acquisition, rehabilitation, etc. So I'll skip this. My proposition to you is that in spite of all these advantages, large hydro development of the sector is an orphan. There is no real policy for large hydropower development. It is a renewable source, but it is not treated as a renewable source. It does not have any of the benefits of renewable sources of power, like solar, wind, small hydro has. There are no renewable purchase obligations which you can fulfill by buying large hydro. no renewable energy certificates, there are no feed-in tariffs, there are no customs, excise duty benefits, no accelerated depreciation. So why is small hydro treated as new and renewable but not large hydro? At least I don't see any reason why this disparity is taking place. Is it because it is off-grid? But then why is large solar treated as new and renewable, although it is not off-grid? It is connected to the grid. There are megawatt scale solar projects coming up. So why are the same benefits not given to large hydro? Perhaps the impression is that large hydro is very, very profitable. But actually it is not. In power procurement also, large hydro is an orphan. Mr. Dhawal pointed out that peaking power does not really figure in the long-term power purchase plans of utilities. Nobody gives any importance to peaking nature of hydropower. So nobody procures peaking power. Regulators also do not insist that utilities buy peaking power. Everybody is after buying thermal power. And why should the utilities buy peaking power? They draw from the grid at will, leading to the 2 grid collapses that we have seen in the month of July. So there's no real discipline, there's no compulsion for managing their peak power requirement. Either they overdraw from the grid or they implement load shedding. So either the other utilities suffer or the consumer suffers. So you really don't care. You don't buy peaking power. That is the reality. Utilities also don't plan their power purchase so much in advance. Hydro development takes 8 years, 10 years sometimes, maybe even longer. So nobody buys power that much in advance. So therefore, when they come out with tenders, they usually come out for purchasing thermal power. Nobody has ever come out for purchasing of hydropower. So therefore, hydropower has to compete with thermal power, and in that comparison, when you are actually not comparing comparables. You are comparing a commodity, which is thermal power, with a premium product, which is hydro. And you expect that the price will be the same. But invariably, in that comparison, hydro comes out more expensive, apparently, although it is not in the long run. In the tariff setting also, the same formula is applicable to thermal projects as well as to hydro projects. You get 15.5% return on your equity, but that return is not given to your equity during the period of implementation. Now what happens is, a thermal project comes up in 4 years, whereas a hydro project can take 8 years, which means I have to go without return on equity for a much longer period than the developer of a thermal project. He needs to invest only 4 crores per megawatt, whereas I have to invest 6 to 8 crores per megawatt, which means I have to put in a larger amount of money for a longer period without any return. So in net IRR terms, my IRR sometimes it hovers around 10%, whereas the IRR of a thermal project is about 12 to 13%. Now, no investor with various opportunities of development will look at such an investment proposition which does not give adequate IRR. On the other hand, investment in the hydro sector is riskier than thermal. Except for the fuel risk, thermal does not face all the various risks that are associated with hydropower. The normal principle is that the higher the risk, the more the return. But at least in the case of thermal versus hydro, the higher the risk, the lower the return is the law that applies. The tariffs do not reflect peaking benefits. So all these things are actually making hydropower development not a very attractive proposition, and no wonder that developers are leaving this sector. So something needs to be done about this. Now, if you increase the return on equity, or if you give return on equity for the implementation period, then the tariff will increase. And again, in the comparison between thermal and hydro, hydro will be more expensive, so nobody will purchase it. So some sort of an intervention at the tax level has to be done by government to ensure that the project cost of a hydro project comes down as compared to thermal. There are some positive developments, not all are negative. For instance, in transmission, the point of connection transmission system has come, which basically means that regardless of the distance, and this is beneficial to the northeast, regardless of the distance, transmission will take place. So whether a power project, a hydro project is located in Arunachal or whether it is in Karnataka, basically you pay the same transmission tariff. But again, thermal has an advantage over this because you pay by the megawatt, whereas my PLF is 45%, thermal PLF is 85%. So the transmission cost is spread over a larger number of electricity in terms of units. Whereas in case of hydro, per unit transmission cost turns out to be more because of the 45% PLF. Now 1% extra return on equity is proposed for reservoir schemes. However, this is not extended to run-of-river schemes, which too provide peaking benefit in its own way. Some discussion has started about encouraging peaking power through tariff, but it is only discussion. And as Mr. Dohal has said, last 10 years he's been talking about it. So I don't know how long more this discussion is going to take place. Time of day tariff has been introduced in some states, which in turn will mean that peaking will have its own value attached to it and utilities will be encouraged to purchase peaking power. So these two measures will give hydro its due, hopefully, and developing a hydropower project may become attractive. Now, as far as environment, etc. is concerned, I think we have a session in the afternoon, so we can talk about these issues there. But broadly, as far as the points regarding whether hydro is an attractive proposition, what needs to be done to make it attractive, these are some of the points that I wanted to make. Thank you.